Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair another cabinet meeting as tensions between India and Pakistan continue to escalate. Small arms firing continues between the nations as the UN warns over a conflict between the two countries. US President Donald Trump has celebrated his 100 days in office, stating nothing will stop me at a campaign-style rally. Trump mocks the Democrats while stating he is outperforming his first term. Meanwhile, President Trump has signed an executive order easing tariffs on autos in a move to potentially prevent price hikes and plant closures. Meanwhile, Trump calls Amazon boss Jeff Bezos over a spat regarding tariff pricing. 3 people have been killed after a shooting in the Swedish city of Uppsala. The shooter, who opened fire at a hair salon in Vaksala Square, is still on the run as officers continue to investigate a motive. Seoul says that 600 North Korean soldiers have died while fighting for Russia against Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia has dismissed Ukraine's call for an extended 30-day ceasefire as France accuses Russia of cyber attacks. North Korea has conducted the first test firing of its new warship's weapon systems, with cruise and anti-air missiles launched. The US and South Korean intelligence agencies are closely monitoring the activities, according to Seoul. Meanwhile, South Korean prosecutors have raided former Prime Minister Yoon Suk Yeol's private residence, according to local media sources. An investigation into an influence peddling case is ongoing, though it is not clear if Yoon's property was entered. A Gaza medic detained by Israel has been released, according to the Red Crescent. Meanwhile, a hearing on the humanitarian situation in Gaza has continued, with the UN saying an unseen level of suffering is taking place amid aid blockages. We begin this hour with a major update in the Pahalgam terror attack. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair a high-level cabinet meeting at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time today, with a cabinet committee on security meet also likely. Tensions continue to rise as the Indian Army has confirmed that Pakistan Army posts initiated unprovoked small arms fire overnight across the line of control, targeting sectors in Nowshera, Sundarbani and Kannur in Jammu and Kashmir. In a significant development, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to speak with India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his Pakistani counterpart in a bid to de-escalate the situation. Let's hear what the White House have had to say.
The Kashmir situation, India and Pakistan, that he said we are reaching out to both parties and telling, of course, them to not escalate the situation. The Secretary expects to speak with the foreign ministers of Pakistan and India as early as today or tomorrow. He is encouraging other national leaders, other foreign ministers, to also reach out to the countries on this issue.
On its response, and in a strong statement from the United Nations, leaders there warned that a confrontation between India and Pakistan would be catastrophic, not only for the region but also for the world. Well, joining us to discuss of course the ongoing tensions causing global concern as the fallout from the devastating Pahalgam terror attack continues. Conversations had at the United Nations, the United States and the UK show that, of course, this tension between Pakistan and India could have global ramifications. Just repeating that small arms fire reported from the Pakistani side Small arms fire has been reported over the line of control for now 6 nights in a row. The tensions continue, and we will be across all of those developments as we get them. Moving on now, when US President Donald Trump marked 100 days of his second term with a fiery rally in Michigan. Trump declared he's ushering in a golden age of America and slammed what he called the radical left lunatics. Trump told supporters his administration delivers profound change and a revolution of common sense. Let's listen in to what the US president had to say.
We're ushering out the long reign of special interests and the radical left lunatics, and we're ushering in the golden age of America. That's what we have. But while we're fighting to protect Americans, the radical left Democrats, who are so bad for this country, are fighting to protect TDA, you just saw that, and MS-13 criminals, and you don't even know which is worse. And we had 4 great years. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. The stock market went up 88%. We did great. And we're going to do better now, because now we're really...
Well, Donald Trump claimed a sharp drop in illegal border crossings and touted major deportations. Trump also promised economic revival, insisting car firms are lining up to invest in the US. Trump sharpened his message on China by defending his tough trade stance. He said tariffs now sit at 145% to China and are ending what he called the greatest job theft in world history. He pledged any deal with Beijing would be fair, not $1 trillion loss like under Biden. Let's look at US President Donald Trump's comments on China during the rally.
With my China tariffs, we're ending the greatest job theft in the history of the world. China's taken more jobs from us than any country has ever taken from another country. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get along. We'll get along with China. I mean, their tariff now is at 145%. So essentially, that's a big difference between that and zero. But I think it's going to work out. They want to make a deal, and we're going to make a deal, but it's going to be a fair deal. It's not going to be a deal that we lose $1 trillion a year like they did with Biden.
Well, Trump also mocked the Democrats, claiming he had already outworked all his campaign promises, insisting that he had done more in his first 100 days than his political foes could ever dream of. As Trump rallies his base, he signals that the fight is far from over and promises you haven't seen anything yet. Well, joining us to discuss this Trump rally marking his first 100 days in office for his second term is Quinton A. Hitchcock, an American political consultant who's joining us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Quinton, thank you ever so much for joining us. I first want to look at this rally as a whole. Of course, this felt more like a campaign rally than anything else. Why did Trump choose this method to celebrate his first 100 days in office?
Because the president loves attention. His rallies for 10 years have been kind of like bubbles with just people that support him to the utmost degree. So he loves the attention. He is a man to be adored. That is what he likes. He cares very much about his public perception. But after 100 days in, it's worth noting that his polling numbers could not be any worse. I have some data to give you that I think is just incredibly interesting and paints the picture of this administration in a nutshell. According to Gallup, who is one of the biggest American pollsters, President Trump is the only post-World War II president to have less than half the public support after 100 days. His job approval rating is about 44% on the high note. And for context, Joshua, that is lowest amongst modern day presidents at the same point in their administration. In fact, the only other president to have a job approval rating this low was President Donald Trump 8 years ago. So we're living in a time in this country, I mentioned the bubble of his rallies, where both political ideologies in this country, everybody on the political spectrum has the exact opposite view of the president. So Republicans could not think he's doing any better. And then, of course, Democrats and a shockingly high number of independents have the exact opposite view. So it's a very interesting time here in America.
Yes, Quinton, I want to dive deeper into some of the comments that were made. We obviously spoke about China in our introduction there, and of course these tariffs unprecedented. With the global impacts that Trump's tariffs have had, why is he celebrating them to the extent that he is? And do you think he's right in his opinions and his outcry of positivity over the tariff action?
He certainly is, and I think this is going to continue, by the way. But let's remember, this White House feels very strongly about how they are handling this economy, how they're handling inflation, how they're handling a lot of these tariff disputes with a lot of countries, both countries that have been allies of America and adversaries, such as, people like China, countries like the EU, countries like Canada that have been incredibly close to us. The president and this White House also feel very strongly that they're handling the immigration issue perfectly. Now, again, going back to polls, the vast majority of Americans view that the president has taken a lot of these key issues way too far, primarily immigration, and then primarily the economy, specifically how he's handled the tariff disputes. So this is a situation where the Republican Party and President Trump and a lot of his allies and those in his administration view that his approach has been perfect. And unfortunately, the rest of the country, to a certain degree, tends to have a different view of that.
Quinton, I'm glad you brought up immigration, because during Trump's speech and Trump's rally, which lasted around an hour and a half, he presented a video of prisoners being flown to El Salvador, showing them getting their heads shaved and also being treated roughly. What precedent does this set? And what does it say about Trump's immigration policies moving forward?
Well, the White House would say that this shows that they are a no-nonsense administration when it comes to illegal crossings into this country. Again, Joshua, this is something that they are incredibly proud of. Expect this to continue. For example, our Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, who used to be a governor of a prominent state in this country, is very known for taking photo ops and pictures in front of groups of illegal immigrants, in front of people that are incarcerated. So this is something that this White House does quite often. You mentioned the immigration issue, and that is probably top two of some of the most important issues that were responsible for getting him elected in the first place. The only thing in that same category would probably be the economy and inflation. But this White House thinks that they're handling immigration perfectly. And the vast majority of Americans, specifically after this El Salvadorian story of Mr. Garcia getting arrested and sent to an El Salvadorian prison, most Americans feel that the president is taking immigration policy a little bit too far. I'll share a very quick story, and this is a heartbreaking story that's happening right now in America that is really becoming much of a political divide, and that is the story of an illegal immigrant that was deported in this country. The political issue here is that she had two very, very young children, one of which was a 2-year-old girl who had advanced cancer. And of course, they were deported. The mother opted for the children to stay with her. But it's stories like that that are driving the heartstrings of a lot of American voters, specifically independent voters. We know that just a hair over 30% of independents have a positive view of the president's job so far 100 days in. So that's an awfully low number. And I think the immigration issue is a key reason why.
Yes, moving from immigration, Trump, as he has done throughout his campaign and also his time during this second term, slating the Democrats for their work while in office. He also repeated the rhetoric over the fact that he believes he won the 2020 election, claiming that it was taken from him. Why is he continuing this avenue, given the fact he's remained in office for a second term following that 2024 election win?
Why the president continues to say to this day that he won the 2020 election is probably one of those questions that every single reporter in this country has spent the last 5 years trying to answer. Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to know the answer to that. The president, again, has a very high opinion of himself. He's not somebody who can really ever accept defeat. We see that with polls. He's polling dead last amongst presidents in the modern era. And he is out there touting his polling numbers, saying, and of course, this is something he's famous for, which is if it's a positive poll, then he's going to speak very highly of it. And of course, if it's negative, then he'll be very dismissive. But the president is his biggest advocate. He is his biggest PR employee. So he understands public relations, and he is going to continue to go on offense. This is not a president who, under any circumstance, is ever going to go on defense.
Yes, Quinton, I'd like to bring an end to this discussion by talking about a potential third term, something that has been raised by the Trump administration. The crowd was shouting 3 at one point. Also, Margot Martin came to the stage and said Trump 2028 anybody. What would that say if work towards a third term was looked at, and what would that say about Trump's thoughts on the American Constitution?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll make this very quick. We are entering, and I'm going to go on record right now saying this, we are on the horizon of entering a very, very dangerous place in this country. And mark my words, within the next 100 days, the vast majority of the Republican Party is going to be issuing this talking point. This is unconstitutional. There's no gray area here. American presidents can serve for 2 terms, not 3, not 4. It doesn't matter what their approval rating is. It doesn't matter what the public thinks of them or how their job performance has been. This is unequivocally clear on both sides of the aisle for now that a president can serve only 2 terms. But this is dangerous because the president has a tremendous amount of influence in today's Republican Party over Congress, over some of our courts, local, state, municipal candidates as well. So this is something where if the president continues this rhetoric, I'm afraid that much of this country is going to start believing this, and we're going to have a serious issue on our hands in about 3 years, which is a terrifying prospect.
Quinton A. Hitchcock, thank you very much for joining us to discuss Trump's 100-day rally. We will stay with US President Donald Trump, who has said that talks with India on tariffs are going great and that according to him, the 2 countries would reach a trade deal soon. Reportedly, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also said that the Trump administration had reached a trade deal and was waiting for the country's approval to announce it. Moreover, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent affirmed that India could be one of the first to sign a trade deal with the United States. Let's take a look at what the president has said.
India's coming along great. I think we'll have a deal with India. The Prime Minister, as you know, was here 3 weeks ago, and they want to make a deal. We'll see what happens. Thank you.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order intended to reduce the economic hit from multiple overlapping tariffs on automakers. According to a Commerce Department official, the move means that an automaker would not face both a 25% levy for an imported vehicle and 25% on steel or aluminium. Thus, the measures would give the industry time to move supply chains to the United States. We stay again with US President Donald Trump, who is now praising Amazon founder Jeff Bezos after the company denied reports it would display tariff-related costs to consumers. Trump had reportedly called Bezos personally to object to the idea, which was floated by Amazon's low-cost shopping arm Haul, seen as a rival to Temu. Amazon later clarified the plan was never approved and not going to happen. Speaking to reporters, Trump called Bezos terrific and said he had done the right thing. But earlier in the day, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt slammed the initial report, calling it a hostile political act. Amazon's stock dipped on the remarks. Let's listen to Caroline Leavitt's comments.
I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years?
All this as US tariffs on Chinese goods rise sharply, with new rules squeezing small businesses and driving up prices across online platforms, including Amazon, Temu and Shein. Looking now at the Russia-Ukraine war, and according to a South Korean lawmaker, around 600 North Korean soldiers have been killed while fighting for Russia in Ukraine. A member of parliament, Lee Seong-kwan, revealed that the casualties include approximately 600 deaths with 4,700 soldiers wounded. This follows Pyongyang's official confirmation of troop deployment to aid Moscow in its war efforts. Another development was seen at the United Nations, where French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot accused Russia of blocking a ceasefire in Ukraine, urging President Putin to cease fire. He emphasised the need for a diplomatic solution while condemning Russia's actions in the region. This is what the French Foreign Minister had to say.
Les agresseurs ne doivent pas être récompensés aux dépens des agressés. Les frontières sont intangibles. Les États, quels qu'ils soient, sont souverains. Et j'en appelle donc au président Poutine pour lui dire cessez le feu, cessez le feu, cessez le feu.
Meanwhile, US Representative John Kelly called on both Russia and Ukraine to pursue a durable peace. Let's listen in to the US representative to the United Nations.
Right now, Russia has a great opportunity to achieve a durable peace. The burden for ending the war rests with Russia and with Ukraine. It is up to the leaders of both these countries to decide whether peace.
Well, France also condemned Russia for alleged cyber attacks during ministries, defence firms and think tanks, further destabilising the region. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, Russian drone attacks on Kharkiv reportedly injured 38 people, including 2 children, with several buildings struck and fires ongoing, according to local reports. In Dnipro, drones triggered fires, killing 1 person. Both cities have been frequently targeted in the ongoing conflict with Russia. We stay in Europe now, and a manhunt is underway in the Swedish city of Uppsala after a brazen triple shooting shocked the country just ahead of the annual Valborg Spring Festival. 3 people were shot dead inside a hair salon in central Uppsala at around 5 p.m. local time. Eyewitnesses reported chaos as people ran for cover, and a masked suspect fled the scene on an electric scooter. Police have confirmed the deaths and declared the case is a special incident. A large area near Vaksala Square has been sealed off, and authorities are urging the public to come forward with any information. Sweden's Justice Minister Gunnar Strömmer condemned the killings as a brutal act of violence and said the government is closely monitoring the situation. Train services were also briefly halted in the wake of the incident. Let's hear what the mayor of Uppsala, Erik Pelling, has had to say after the attack.
Jag är chockad som alla andra. Jag är bedrövad över att det här har hänt, och jag är också förbannad över att det får hända i Sverige. Att människor tar sig rätt att skjuta, att mörda andra, att vi tvingas leva med den här grova kriminaliteten. Så jag känner också en stor frustration över att vi inte har lyckats bättre med att komma till.
Moving on now, and according to Indian police, a fierce fire has ripped through a hotel in the city of Kolkata, killing at least 15 people. Kolkata Police Chief Manoj Verma has said that several people were rescued from rooms and roofs of the hotel. He also confirmed that the fire has been tackled and that cooling operations are underway. Moreover, he added that further investigations are underway and a special team has been informed for the investigation. Reportedly, several people were seen trying to escape through the windows and narrow ledges of the buildings, and at least 1 person died when he jumped off the terrace trying to escape the fire. As per local leaders, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, has inquired about the incident over the phone and asked Kolkata Mayor to rush to the spot along with Police Commissioner Manoj Verma. Moving on now, North Korea has conducted its first live fire tests of the weapon system on its newly launched warship. The 5,000-ton vessel named Cho Hae-on fired a range of strategic and tactical weapons along with 127mm ship-based automatic guns. A launching ceremony of a new multi-purpose warship was held. The warship included supersonic cruise missiles, tactical ballistic missiles, and advanced anti-aircraft guns. Kim emphasised the need to perfect integrated combat capabilities and called for an expansion of the Navy's nuclear armament to enhance maritime defence. He also outlined plans to build more destroyers of the same class, larger cruisers, and to develop nuclear-powered submarines in the future. The move marks a significant step in Pyongyang's pursuit of sea-based nuclear deterrence. Tensions remain high in Syria after deadly sectarian clashes erupted in the Druze town of Jaramana, southeast of Damascus. 13 people were killed, including security personnel and Druze fighters, after a leaked recording allegedly of a Druze man insulting the Prophet Muhammad sparked outrage among nearby Sunni gunmen. The Syrian Interior Ministry is investigating the incident and has urged all to remain calm. In a bid to ease tensions, Druze leaders and Syrian authorities reached a deal on Tuesday to prosecute those responsible for the violence and curb sectarian incitement. Druze clerics condemned the offensive remarks, urging unity and rejecting attempts to divide the country. Syria's peace remains under strain as minority groups fear for their safety under the new Islamist-led leadership in Damascus. Moving now to South Korea, and according to the local Yonhap news agency, the prosecutors have raided the home of the country's ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol as part of its investigation into various suspicions over relations between his family and a controversial shaman. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol was stripped of all power and privileges earlier this month by the Constitutional Court over his December 3rd martial law declaration. He was forced to move out of the presidential residence and into his previous home in Seoul's Seocho district. The shaman is accused of receiving a diamond necklace, a luxury bag, and ginseng, which is a popular health tonic that can cost thousands, from a high-ranking official from the Unification Church, and handing them to Yoon's wife. The shaman claimed he lost the intended gifts and never delivered them to Kim, but local media reported that prosecutors had obtained a text message from the official from the church group demanding he give the necklace back. Reportedly, the prosecution is now trying to verify the authenticity of the alleged delivery of gifts and find out whether the then First Lady ever received them. That is all that we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more of the latest breaking news from across the world.